For our COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee meeting, September 10th. We look forward to getting some updates from the hard work that you all have been doing with some of the distributions and recommendations that have been approved by council and funding that has been made to our community. So we are going to go ahead and jump out of order a little bit on our agenda and go to the second item, which is United Way. And as a reminder, they were awarded and have been funded the $10 million for rent, mortgage, and utility assistance. And we have joining us via phone, Erica Mitchell and Lauren Watt. You have the hard copy of their report in front of you. And I am going to turn it over to, I think Erica Mitchell is going to start us off. I'm going to turn it over to her to walk you through the report since this is our first one. And so we can kind of get the lay of the land with the report and the details that are in it. So if you are ready, Erica, I am turning it over to you.
Thanks so much, Mary Jo. And thank you to the council for allowing United Way to participate this afternoon, and a big thank you for entrusting us with the opportunity to make sure that folks are able to stay in their homes, make sure that they're able to stay housed. I wanted to provide just a little bit of a brief overview of the work to date. We were asked to provide a bi-monthly report to the council giving kind of a 2-week snapshot of activity, and this is the first report. So a little bit of background, United Way received a fully executed contract from Metro on August 17th. $10 million in funds were deposited from Metro to United Way on August 25th. United Way then made the first round of grant allocations to agencies on August 26th. So this report is encompassing really from 8/26 to 9/4, but these are the details that have transpired for this first 2-week period. For the first round of funding, we allocated funds to 12 agencies. You'll see if you're looking at the report there, a look at the past 2 weeks, total allocation to agencies, just over $2.2 million. And in that first, as I was saying, it's been this is really kind of a week of allocations of funds for rent, mortgage, and utilities. The first disbursement of funds to assist clients was just over $200,000, so $219,065 has gone for rent, mortgage, and utilities. The average assistance to clients was just over $1,900, and I think that is an interesting note because what we were noticing, what we saw during the early stages of COVID, this is significantly higher. So you had a range of about $500 to $700, which was an average to assist clients with rent, mortgage, and utilities. But what we're seeing is that there are a number of individuals who have back rent that is due and folks who are facing evictions because of a lack of being able to pay back rent and deferred payments. So again, very timely in terms of the funding, and definitely the need is very much still alive and very much present. If you look at the gray bar, the total perspective, this will be accumulative and rolling with each report that we give. So for now, it's that 2-week look. Again, the total allocation to agencies, just over $2.2 million. And again, the disbursement to clients, a little over $200,000. The remaining funds that you'll see, just over $7.7 million. That number will change just a little bit as the spending plans for administrative fees come in from our agencies. We're asking them to submit those to us on a monthly basis, and so you'll see that number change just a little bit over time. And I'll pause there just to see if there are any questions before I move to the next tab. And I won't go through all of the tabs. You'll be able to digest them fully in your own time, but I did want to raise some interesting highlights throughout the report. Are there any questions on the first page? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't see a list of the 12 agencies.
Yes, I realized after I sent the report that I have not included the list of agencies. So allow me to send that just after this call. I can send that report. Mary Jo, I'll send that list to you if that works.
And then the demographics, is this what you all are doing yourselves, or is this all the information that you're receiving from the 12 agencies?
This is all the information that we are receiving from the 12 agencies. And I'll back up just a little bit. This is a report that is comprised of information, data that is collected through the shared database that's called Charity Tracker. And Charity Tracker is a database that we have used with our financial assistance partners for many years. One of the requirements of this grant in order to be a grant recipient is that you sign up to be a part of the Charity Tracker network. United Way does provide that seat license to any service provider free of charge, and we do provide the training. But this is where any service provider collects the data on clients so that we have the additional information in terms of the number of dollars that are going out and some of the data points that you will see coming up shortly. Any additional questions on this page before I move to the next tab?
Is there still opportunity for charity agencies to reach out to you to sign up to be a disbursement agency?
Absolutely. So we dispersed our first round just a couple of weeks ago. We will have our second round of funding. We will make decisions on those tomorrow. And then I anticipate there will be a third, potentially a fourth round, but certainly we will have the second round tomorrow. I've been working with the Equity Alliance. We had a conversation with a group of churches earlier this week that I think was well received. We're really looking for opportunities to broaden the number of organizations as well as broaden the reach into the community so that the dollars can go far and we are able to address the needs where they are greatest. I'm going to skip over to the second tab, which is category.
Sorry, one last question.
Yeah.
Is there still opportunity for the agencies that have received funding to receive more?
Yes. So if agencies that have received funding, we've actually had one organization, the Hope Station, who does work over in North Nashville, who has reached out. They have already expended their funds, and they did express to us in their first round that they had a wait list, and so they have reapplied for additional funding. So as long as there is documented need and agencies can also document that they have spent their funding down completely through Charity Tracker, there's an opportunity to receive funds for an additional round. Great question. So hopping over to the second tab, categories, if you look at categories, this again will tell you the amount of assistance at the top, line 5, the total assistance amount that's gone out to our 12 nonprofit organizations currently. That number will grow. And the total assistance count, this is the number of households that are being served, but I also want to draw attention to line 7 where it says total household members. I think that's particularly interesting because when we think about an individual household, we know that there are other individuals who are living inside of that home. If you skip down to, I think it's very interesting to see, you can see some of the graphs there in terms of, excuse me, the pie chart that demonstrates, pardon me, the percentage of female to male in terms of the clients that are being served. You can also come down to see ethnicity. Right now, if you're looking at lines 32 through 41, you'll see that predominantly our client base has been African American. About 70% of clients are African American currently, about just under 30% are Caucasian. What I anticipate seeing happen as additional organizations who are serving specific ethnic populations are continuing to apply for funding, we anticipate the number and a broader kind of spread of funding going towards a broader swath of community members as well. There's a pie chart beneath that gives you a breakdown in terms of those demographics so you can see what that looks like visually. And then if you continue to come down, I do think it's interesting if you kind of come down and look at lines 100 through 106, it gives you the age demographics. What you will see there is that a large percentage of children are also being impacted. I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong line numbers there. Come down a little bit further, lines 120 through 126, that shows you the age range of the individuals who are being served by household. And I think it's interesting if you look between the ages of 0 and 17 years, what you'll see is almost 50% of the individuals who are being able to stay in their homes, they're not being evicted, they're not becoming homeless, are children. And then again, looking again at maybe 0 to 5, again, you see a large percentage of our population there that are very young ones who are being impacted and being supported by the funding that's being provided. I'm going to skip over to the heat map. If you'll go to your heat map page, and this just gives you a visual representation of where the funds have been distributed up to this point, the clients who are being served. And you can see that it's, there's pretty much a nice representation all around all areas of the city. If you go to the neighboring tab, which is zip codes, it gives you more detail on that heat map. So what you can see are all of the zip codes that are currently where clients have been served. You can see the dollar amounts that have gone out to each one of those zip codes, which ones are highest or the ones that are more highly represented, the ones that are lower currently. And these are numbers that will grow over time as more clients are served. And then, of course, you can see, if you look at the charts below, you can see the type of assistance that's being provided again and the assistance amount. We just thought this would be helpful. We can get a breakdown looking at the various zip codes, and we thought in particular this was really helpful to us at the height of the pandemic when we were looking at COVID hotspots to ensure that we had funding going into the right areas. So I'm going to stop there, see if there are any additional questions. Again, this is our first report. Would love to get feedback as well from the group if there are other data points or other things that we can include. Certainly going forward, we will include on that overview page a list of the organizations that are providing the service. But if there are other things that would be helpful, would love to hear that from this group, and any additional feedback would be helpful.
Yes, this is Councilwoman Sepulveda. My part of town, Southeast Nashville, has had one of the highest numbers of COVID cases. And I also represent the largest Hispanic community, but I'm a little concerned with the number of Hispanic households that have been served. And just Southeast overall, I see in the heat map a bit of Southeast touch, but Southeast is far bigger than that. And so I'm just concerned that we're doing a great job reaching out to the North Nashville community. I'm a little concerned about Southeast and outreach to the African American community, Hispanic community, immigrant community in that part of town. And I know that you all are partnering with Conexión Américas, but I don't know if there is another organization you all are also partnering with.
Yes, and to be honest with you, I was actually a little surprised to see that data, but I think that's one of the important parts of collecting the data in general. We'll be able to see what the trends look like with each bi-monthly report. So yes, we are currently partnering with Conexión, and I do believe that you will begin to see the numbers grow. The first couple of weeks, a lot of that time, really the first week, we were waiting for the funds to be deposited, and then there were really some administrative pieces that had to take place. So you'll see a lot more activity in the next report. But also to your additional point, I think that once the second round of funding has gone out, those decisions will be made tomorrow. You will see a broader representation because of the organizations that have applied. So it's something for us to obviously be mindful of and to be proactive in ensuring that we get the word out to the community, to those communities. But also, I do think that you'll see that represented the second round and in subsequent rounds. But thank you so much for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you.
Do we have any sort of cohesive message, like a PDF that has all of the information that people need to know, to find, if they're looking for this type of support, this is where to go? I'm assuming it's, dial 211 or whatever the process is, that we as a committee, as a council, as the different partnerships that we have throughout different churches that we have in our districts, and things that we can have a cohesive message of sharing on social media to get the word out that these funds are available, because I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, is just reaching people so that they know what is available and how to access it, and hopefully how easy it is. So is there it may already be made, like a social media type PDF or something, or if not, can we get that from you guys so that we could really do a better job of, not that we're not doing, but I'm just saying that needs to be our priority at this point, I think.
No, you're exactly right. The outreach piece really is the biggest component here, because the need is extensive, and we did see that right away, even with the first round of funding. Once again, there are organizations that have lengthy wait lists as we are continuing to get the funding out. But one of the places that you can go is to United Way of Greater Nashville's website. And I can also, along with the list of organizations that are grant recipients, of organizations that are providing funds, I can provide a link to the website so you can know exactly where to go. And it does have a list of, if you are looking for financial assistance, it lists all the organizations. It also lists other areas if there are other specific needs around health or education, or if it's industry specific, we still have those resources there. Obviously, you can still call 211 to receive information and referral. We are creating in-house some very targeted marketing pieces so that we can send that out to various communities in case that needs to be something that's either social media related. If someone wants to hang a flyer, we can still have something printed and ready to go to hang a flyer in a window as well. But we are literally working on that this week to have them ready to go next week.
I would suggest having that flyer in multiple languages, and if you all could send that to the finance office and the mayor's office, so they could also send that out to the rest of the council members, that would be great. I know I think you all should also partner with Metro to make sure that we get that site up on Metro. So it's a one-stop shop, all assistance, and I don't know if the mayor's office has an update on that.
Yeah, we do. So it is on the Safe Nashville website. If you scroll to where it says like assistance, it links back to United Way. It also has the direct link that United Way shared for how a nonprofit can sign up to be a distributor, and then also where people can go to get assistance, and it's all in one spot. And we're going to continue. We've already got it flagged for them to continue to add all the resolutions that you guys have as those contracts get signed, to make sure it's all on our website too.
That's great. Could you repeat to me once again the different places you would like for me to send that flyer and the information within the mayor's office?
Yeah. If you could send it to Mary Jo Wiggins.
Yeah, Eric, if you
Okay.
send it to me, I'll make sure that the council office gets it to be distributed. As Ashley said, it is on the website, and then we'll, and like Metro Action Commission and some of our partners.
Perfect. Any additional questions?
And I'm looking at this in print, so it may take us a little bit of time to coordinate on exactly what document I'm looking at. But I have an 8.5 by, I have an 11 by 17 document in front of me that just shows pretty extensive list of the different types of demographics as well as categories going across. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to decipher this. So I was wondering if you would spend time just going through this chart as well. I think it would be helpful for everyone on the committee, but specifically myself.
Sure. So you're looking at, it's a demographics tab, and if I have the one correct, it says gender, ethnicity, going down the column, the first column, gender, ethnicity, education, employment. Is that the one you're looking at?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
So this is client-level information. It's aggregate. This comes from each one of the agencies that are providing funding to relieve rent, mortgage, and utilities assistance. And this is the data. So if there's an intake form, this is the information that is collecting during intake. So that gives us gender and ethnicity. It gives us all the information you see here, their education level, employment status, marital status, et cetera. And it just helps us to be able to tell a more complete picture and a more complete story of the clients that we're serving, where the needs are, who is coming, who's not coming. It helps us to be able to see where we're doing a good job, perhaps where we need to do some additional work. But it gives you a more complete story of the clients who are coming to see us. So, and we break that down based on dollar amount as well. You can see, for example, under gender, it makes sense that because we're seeing literally almost more than 4 to 1 women to men, that the dollar amounts that are going to women, that 191,000 you see at the top, is much higher than the 28,000 that has been distributed to men. But that's the current state. It will also be interesting to see if that remains consistent throughout this period up until November 15th, or if those numbers change at all. Same thing with ethnicity. It allows us to see where the dollars are going to which ethnic groups. Also allows us to see, as we talked about earlier, we see there's some current gaps that we need to fill. But it's great information, again, kind of an overview of the clients that we are serving, and it informs our story, and it informs our process and how we move forward.
Really quickly, this is information. This is gathered through the Charity Tracker system. And is this a requirement before anyone is receiving funds, or is there outlier information that may not be represented here?
For anyone who is receiving Metro CARES Act funding, they are required to enter data into Charity Tracker. This has been our accountability tool throughout with our financial.
Yes, it's Council Member Jennifer Gamble, and I want to thank you all for this report for the first 2 weeks and the work that you all are doing in dispersing the CARES funding. I just have a question. When we're looking at it and we're seeing that about 10% of what you have allocated has been dispersed so far, are you getting an indication from your partners that we'll be seeing much more in the coming weeks, much more disbursement? This was just this first round, and the delay in getting the funds as to why the number is somewhat low at this point. But do you get a sense that the full $10 million that we have allocated towards this rent and utility assistance will be utilized?
We may have lost the connection. They just texted me. When it sounded like Erica dropped off, I think they lost connection.
Okay.
Can we get IT to call them back?
In the meantime, would it be possible to have these reports available to council members?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have the electronic version, so I can send it to the council office. Want me to have this one sent, or do you want to wait till like the next one and there's more?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Speak really loud because I. Hold on.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Sorry about that. It's hard to just yell at somebody. I apologize.
You need to be saying something worthwhile for everyone to hear.
Yeah, I think as we start to distribute this out, they won't have it with the explanation that Erica was, I believe, giving. But I think it's important that we share it with the note that these numbers are not aggregated. So don't try to total these numbers, but understand that each section is broken out of the distribution. I just don't want numbers that go out on the spreadsheet to be misconstrued as they become more and more public. And I think that's just an important distinction to make when this chart goes out. I feel like it's a very good chart and it's detailed, but just want to make sure it's interpreted correctly.
Great, that's a good point. Okay.
I'm wondering if the report that we send to council, if maybe it should be consolidated a little bit more. Do y'all think it may be information overkill? Because I want them to see, yeah, the chart I don't think they need. If they want it,
Which chart?
the spreadsheet that was the 11 by 17.
Oh, the big demographic?
Yeah.
That's easy enough for me to
Yeah,
leave
sort of.
out.
Yeah, and
So-
if they request more information, then obviously I don't want to overkill them with.
Vonda, I just saw a shaking of head. I want to make sure.
So I think that this committee and its work is being widely watched and viewed. And so, the information that we are receiving, that the public, the council and whoever else is interested should be able to have access to it.
Sure, I'm not saying dump, I'm just saying initially an overview. I just don't want to kill them with.
So the summary sheet, the order, I guess, matters. And so the summary sheet probably should go on top because it's very helpful to get a snapshot of all of this. But yeah, I don't see why the.
Do we have them back? No.
IT was working on it, so as soon as they have it back up.
Okay.
Just one comment that I think I would like to send back. As Erica was describing this, I think that some of these sections, they don't all total, right, to the allocation amount. And so what I'm trying to decipher here is some type of way of discerning how this should be read. Because we look at the employment category, if you do try to total that category, it's more than what's been allocated. So I just want to make sure we can get from them how we should read this information.
Okay.
I think that's going to be important, especially if we have it right now and it's just going to get built on, trying to get that clear in the first iteration.
Right, because the assistance amount column does not necessarily tie to the 219 in every case.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
United Way back on?
So,
Government bid.
right, so we'll clear,
Yeah.
yeah, but maybe if
straightforward.
but if we put a note at the top of that page to clarify it, then include it.
I heard a
Okay.
beep. Is United Way back on?
No, they said they both hung up and they're waiting to be called back. Okay. There, did you call him back? That we make a note at the top of that large demographic page so that there's clarity before it is sent out, and then I'll send it to the council office. All right, we'll get that back. We'll have them back on for any last questions. And I apologize. I haven't heard back from Equity Alliance. They were going to be here to present the report. I don't have the hard copy. I texted them as we started, and I thought they were downstairs, but we might have that a little backwards. So once we finish with United Way, we will just go right into the rest of our agenda. All right, sounds like we have United Way back.
Okay. Thanks so much for reconnecting me. I was talking a little bit about the...
Erica, if you'll hold 1 second, we're going to get IT to turn the volume back up. We hear you talking,
sure.
but...
Just let me know when.
Okay, I think we actually can hear you.
Okay. When we left off, I was talking a little bit about the demographics table. And I was saying that the demographics table, where you're looking at the first column that has gender, ethnicity, education, employment, and other characteristics, this table allows us to have a really nice snapshot of who is coming to see us for services. It also helps to inform us in terms of thinking through what outreach looks like. It helps to inform us in terms of who is coming to see us and who is missing. It also gives us a snapshot of what government assistance looks like in terms of the clients who are coming to see us. Have they received other forms of payment before? It's just a really nice snapshot for us to inform our process, but also to understand who our clients are that are coming to receive the assistance.
So Erica, one of the comments that was made after we lost you is that not each assistance amount in each bucket is going to add up to the total. Mm-hmm. So we wanted, before we distributed the report to the council office, we thought we should have some kind of note at the top that is perhaps, if we pick one, either that they're not all going to total the $219,000 in assistance. Is that because there might be somebody who received assistance that doesn't receive any other, like government assistance? So therefore, they would have been a zero in that column, even though they received financial assistance.
That is exactly right.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. So in one of the columns, let's say in the government benefits, I haven't added it up, but if that doesn't total the $219,000, it means somebody received financial assistance for their rent, mortgage, or utilities, but they have not received any government assistance. So essentially it's a zero in that column, but there's a number in the financial assistance. So within these gray blocks on that sheet, it shouldn't ever exceed the 219, but it may not add up to the full 219 if that person didn't fall into any of those categories. Did I say that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay. Oh, Edward had another question.
Yeah, I understand. I just believe that that's potentially confusing. I don't know if it's probably better to just have a leveling, like how there is a other category in some, but not all. So that's why my question was originally, is this a requirement for everyone to fill out? Because if I've received funds, and I'll just use a very simple one, preferred language, I feel like that should total to $220,000. I mean, you prefer a language if you're filling this out, so why is that absent? That's just one point, but I just feel like there should potentially be a leveling, so there's an other or a not applicable category that captures the funds. I just feel like that's just going to be a better practice for us moving forward. Having shared Excel documents publicly and people trying to decipher them without someone walking them through it, that's just my recommendation.
Erica, would it be true that it was a non-response? I mean, if we put that line in and just said non-response and everything that doesn't add up to 219, the difference goes into a non-response?
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. There are definitely cases where someone chooses not to respond to a particular question. And so we can, and I appreciate the feedback because we can certainly include a non-response, and other category so that it does level out and it makes it less confusing. That's a good point. Well, we can add that in for the next report.
Hey, Erica, this is Donato DeBecco. Quick question, and I might have missed this, but of the $2.2 million that has been allocated to the agencies, are we going to receive information about the, I guess, who and where those funds go to help?
So, and let me just make sure I understand your question. Are you asking specifically about the type of help that is offered, or are you speaking of specific organizations that are actually receiving the payments?
So, no, not just the organizations receiving the payments, but I guess how those organizations put those funds to use, if it's going to their clients, or are we going to get information?
So the very last page on zip codes, and help me out if I'm not quite answering the question, the very last page that has zip code information, and it has a category, the assistance account and then the assistance amount, that gives more detail in terms of, I think the first one says, line 31 says water paid in full, line 35, rental assistance, housing and lodging, that's for mortgage payments. And then you keep going down the line, rental assistance, electric payments, water. So it will tell you the different categories, the dollar amounts that are associated with each one of those categories. Is that what you're getting at, or are you asking something different?
I think I might be asking something different, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong. The information that we have in front of us is for how the $219,000 that are United Way clients, how that money has been, the demographic breakdown on where that $219,000 has gone. My question was more for the 2.2 that's been allocated to other agencies. Are we going to have them get information about how that money is used?
Sure. So just for clarification, on the overview page, the total allocation to agencies is $2,269,350. Of that $2.2 million, $219,000 to date, or actually up until September 4th, has gone to support clients with rent, mortgage, and utilities. So that 219 is a part of the 2,269,000. Does that make sense? Is that clearer?
Hey guys, if you're gonna talk, if you'll use your microphone so that they can hear.
I was just trying to clarify, I think from my understanding of what Erica said is that the $2 million has been distributed to the distributing agencies, and of that, $219,000 has gone out to individuals. So that remaining $1 million or whatever, we'll get that data as it's distributed.
That is correct.
Can I ask for one more piece of data? And it's just percentage, taken into account the dollar amount by zip code. It's on there?
Did you get that, Erica?
The percentage.
So on the zip code tab, if we could add a column next to the assistance amount, that we would also put a percentage for each zip code. All right, if we lost them, I will make sure. Okay. Having the electronic copy, I know it can be done, and we'll communicate back to them. I think for time, we'll keep moving. I think Equity Alliance is here. I think they're just working on the reports. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump forward and with the agenda. One of the things that we wanted to talk about, and I provided 2 sheets. One is the expenditure framework that you're accustomed to seeing, and it has all of the details. Right behind that, I also included a sheet that says what we have spent or committed. And one of the things that we haven't done yet as a committee is that we've identified 48.8 million in city response, but we've only allocated through the council and had approved 16.7. And so to make sure that we are spending funds that have been approved, we might want to consider putting that 32.1 in our next resolution so that we can get that through council and approved for our expenditures.
So it's already been approved, correct? It's already been spent.
Not all of it.
Okay.
No, so if you, I thought the second sheet might help a little bit. I provided just a little more detail. If you want to look at the header that says what we have spent or committed, the vast majority is in the first two line items, which is our staffing and temp labor. So we have department overtime across Metro. We have temporary labor for the health department. A lot of that is contact tracing. We have temp labor at the homeless shelters. Metro employees have been repurposed, some at the shelter, some during the primary part of our shutdown where we had parks and library folks delivering food to MNPS students. We had admin leave for closed operations as well as additional sick time. And so that 20.7 million plus the hazard pay is a total of 40.7 million. Lab testing is another 10 million, and then PPE, safety supplies, building prep. And all of that, at the end, what you'll see is it says net of FEMA claim. We will still be submitting our expenses to be reimbursed by FEMA. They have a much narrower, so all of our expenses won't qualify for FEMA, but every bit that we can get qualified for FEMA. So that's our best estimate today based on FEMA consultants that we have in-house.
And this is not including the 32.1, correct?
That total 48.8 is our total estimate for the city.
Yeah.
Of that, 16.7 has already been approved by the council, so we're asking for the other 32.1 to be recommended for the city's emergency response to be approved by council.
I guess my question is, from the 32.1, that can't be reimbursed by FEMA.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the net balance that we expect to come out of out of the CRF funds and not reimbursed by FEMA.
Do we want to, oh,
Edward?
I just thought it easy for clarification to just compare the two pages, and the 16.7 and the 32.1 allocated equal that 48.8. I just wanted that to just be kind of the leveling between the two pages, is if you take the 16.7 that's already been allocated and the 32.1, that balance is what equals that 48.8. So if you want to just see a breakdown, you can look at the first sheet to keep consistent what we've been seeing.
do we want to go ahead and get that resolution started, or do we want to wait? I mean, I'm happy to make a motion to go ahead and get it started since it's, I think it's going to happen anyway, right? So that's fine with me, but then I also have a question.
I do think that we should go ahead and get it to council sooner rather than later. So if it's okay with my other colleagues on council, I'll go ahead and make the motion for 32.1 to be allocated to the city's emergency response.
Seconded.
Great. Any discussion?
Yeah, the legal counsel would like to have a discussion. Okay, so one issue that we're having is, frankly, we're kind of killing the council's office with these late filed resolutions, and I've told them that we won't be doing that again because it's tough on them. So I just ask that we don't have it for this particular council meeting, but that certainly I can prepare it in time, well in advance for the next one.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a proper motion in a second. Do we have any discussion, any questions?
I just have one question, just in terms of all the resolutions we've done and just for form, will there also be some type of objectives, reporting, tracking according to these funds as well?
I think absolutely. as we continue to see the amounts. I actually submit the next report that is due to the U.S. Treasury is the due date is September 21st. So, and those are quarterly. I can actually prepare those more often than quarterly if the committee would like to see as the actuals come through.
Yes, if we could add that.
Okay, so we will add the similar reporting. It doesn't have demographics, and I'll be tracking essentially the 48.8 million, and it will, provide like department level detail. Okay, we'll get that. All right, I think we can then, yeah.
Just real fast, on the 68.8 or 48.8, on the 20 million reserve credit that we believe we're going to get, if we're wrong or the consultants are wrong about that and we're only going to get 19, where does that last $1 million come out of? And when can we reconcile that? Will we have time to do it out of our reserves, or what's the timing?
So some of it, that does create the argument for some of the reserve, so that if we don't get the reimbursement, that we don't have to take it out of general fund. The other thing is that we are submitting some of those reimbursements now, so that we will have that we will have an idea of what we're getting, so that we can adjust. And there are the largest piece is hazard pay, and that is our estimate through the end of December 30th. If we start to realize that we are not going to get some of the reimbursements that we are expecting, then we may have to end hazard pay sooner than December 30th. So that
they
we
rise
can
and fall with each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that we kind of maintain that same 48.8, and that we don't have to go into reserve, which is really our intention. And we're going to be really aggressive with FEMA filings.
I would just like to add for the resolution for the 32.1 million, I can't remember if we had an actual resolution for the 16.7.
Did.
Okay, so can we reference that in this new resolution so that it's understood that this is the second allocation for that emergency response, and include that 16.7 amendment, so that the council members and the public can understand that they kind of go together.
Yep.
One final question. When do we have an answer from FEMA?
We submit individual requests, and they kind of vary in time. So we already submitted about $1 million worth of PPE, and there was about $148,000 that was questioned. Not denied, they just said we need more detail. So then we go back and do that back and forth kind of thing, and then they obligate it, and then it takes a couple of weeks to actually receive the payment after it's obligated. So we will continue. We did a PPE. We'll do like an entire, like the police department payroll. We'll pick all of OEM, we'll pick all of the lab tests, that we have. So we kind of bundle them in manageable chunks.
I'll ask a question after we take the vote, because it's unrelated.
Okay. So I think then, are there any other questions or discussion on our motion to allocate the 32.1 for the city response? Okay, then we will take Alex, do I have to do verbal, or are we still okay with hands?
This isn't an electronic, so you can do verbal.
Excellent. So by show of hands, then, we will take a vote to approve that. Okay, so okay, so we have all 8 of our existing members, 8 of 8. Great, thank you for that. That really did, so that covers all of 3. Councilmember Johnston, did you have a question before we start with Equity Alliance?
Yes. So I was just looking at the difference between our typical kind of breakdown of expenses, and then the one that you did with what we have spent or committed. And I just noticed that in the one where we have committed, the breakdown for the support for public schools includes the $2 million for nurses in every school. But over here, it looks like it's an additional request for the $2 million, but that those numbers don't add up. Because then what we've committed adds up to 24, including the $2 million for nurses. But on the other page that we're typically used to, that 24 million that we've already allocated, it looks like it doesn't include nurses. I'm just trying to figure out Are they asking for another $2 million, or was that already in the original allocation?
So the answer is a little bit of both. Thank you for pointing that out because there is clarity. They, because the state provided a technology grant, they were able to find some additional funds within the original 24 for nurses, but that is only through December 30th. So there is going to be a request for funding for after December 30th,
Okay.
if there's any extension. But quite honestly, we need to, that was the prorated amount for
Okay.
just through December, and they can now be combined. So I do need to correct the, that kind of that framework expenditure that you all have been used to seeing. That
Okay.
didn't get updated.
Okay. The other question that I have about that is for the 20 million in laptops. Like, I don't know if we're going to go back to in-person or what the deal is, or out of the 90,000 computers that we bought, how many have, what do we still have in stock? What do we, whatever? Has there been any discussion on recouping any of that money if those laptops are not necessarily needed anymore, or where we are with that possibly?
They're all ordered. I would have to get an update from MNPS to know if they've all been delivered. I don't think they have. I think there was some lag time, but they've all been ordered. So we wouldn't save any money. The students would all have them.
Okay. You could, okay. All right.
Representative Love?
And I was going to add, I think part of that 50 million that the state allocated was a 2/3, 1/3 match. So that if a city or county or school district spent $200 on a $300 laptop, the state would provide 100. And so that also may be part of why when we ordered them, we just paid for them. And the state's portion kicked in that 1/3 of it. So we're not just talking about our money, but their money also with the laptops ordered, I believe.
Okay.
And then MMPS is also talking about phasing in schools. And so I believe that starts after fall break.
Yep.
Just FYI.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to, before we turn it over to Equity Alliance, I'm just going to take care of the rest of the agenda because then we can give them the rest of the time. So I sent you all the legislative update, which was really, it's been referred to, I've seen it in a couple different emails as like a skinny version. So it's pretty scaled down from what the hope was for like a CARES Act 2, so to speak. Of course, we don't have any best guess on probability, but we know it's a possibility. The one consistency that we keep hearing is an extension of the date, that December 30th. We may extend our use of funds past that date. So I do think that was something important for the committee to keep in mind, that if we will continue to respond whether that date comes and goes or not, but it also is an indication that if we're not going to receive more funds, we might need to stretch the funds that we have past December 30th. So you all received that. Ashley, is there any other state updates, or I'll ask Representative Love to?
Yeah, the only thing is small business, they have till the 25th in order to respond to get the money that's on the table for that. And then after that, looks like the 1st of October, they'll release the next iteration of what the business relief looks like. And I'm sure they'll have a couple other things then once they reevaluate. And I think they reevaluated the $60 million for food as well from the PEBT. And they were working with schools on that one. Is there anything else, Representative Love?
Any other updates? Oh, Councilmember Gamble?
Was there an update on the nonprofit 150 million? I saw something about that.
Yeah, so the email that you received from me had the list of all the nonprofits that receive funding. You want to pay close attention to the United Way from Middle Tennessee list. Obviously, that was all of Middle Tennessee and not just Davidson County, but you can see the nonprofits. They're working on the dashboard that was shared with you before that the state has to show the amount. So you'll see it. It's not been updated yet. As soon as it is, we'll send it back out to you so you know to look for it, so you can see exactly who got funding and how much. Yeah, it's been allocated already. Yeah, it's public. That's all public information.
All right. Charlene and Tequila, we're glad you're here, and we look forward to Equity Alliance report. And I was just telling folks, we will open the floor to you for the rest of the meeting. We're going to try to wrap about 5 minutes early, so you've got, 5, 10, 15, about 20 minutes. I would leave some time for questions.
Okay. Hi, y'all. How y'all doing? So Tequila's going to pass out the report. I want to emphasize this is a draft. There are some updates that need to be made just based off of a lot of the events that we've had in the past week. And so we will finalize that and get you a final copy in the next day or 48 hours, and an electronic copy as well. So if we could, I would like to have those hard copies back after this meeting, but definitely peruse through it if, for that. So I won't go through the whole report because we were here several weeks ago, and you got a lot of the top line data already in what we're after in terms of objectives and goals. But I would like to turn your attention to page 5 of the report, which is the executive summary, and it has some bullet points. We wanted to highlight, how the project sort of ramped up in less than 65 days, what we were able to do through this project. And we hired a team in less than 13 days. We ramped up for this. After July 8th, we were able to recruit 112 community canvassers and 107 nonprofit and civic partners. We also hosted 31 community outreach events. So, as you can see, this was a very multi-layered, multifaceted approach to how we received the survey respondents. And we also did paid and earned media. We did 18 media interviews, radio, we did Facebook ads, all of that, reaching over 700,000 people. And all in all, we were able to collect 8,505 survey responses from all of the different sources that we had out there. Our goal was, I believe, 3,124, so we far exceeded what we wanted, which was a 5% response rate. So we are proud about that, to really make sure that this report is representative of the perspectives of Nashville residents. At the bottom of page 5 are what the final report draws on, which are how the 8,000 survey responses breaks down. We broke out our project into 2 phases. One phase was, as you know, the 1,028 responses that we presented in our preliminary report, which was most of the quantitative data. But over the last several weeks, we've been in the community talking to business owners and residents, and that is most of the qualitative data that breaks out in those bullet points. So. And then I want to turn your attention to page 6, which is basically the top line key findings that you will see in this report. And each of these bullet points breaks out into more detailed findings as you read the report. Most of this you sort of know already, and 66% of Nashvillians have been negatively impacted by the coronavirus and the economic downturn. What was interesting was that we saw that 73% didn't know how to access COVID resources and assistance. The problem that came out of this, or issue that we saw come out of this project, is that you have entities, you have nonprofits, you have sources that have the resources, you have government that has the $121 million worth of resources, but you also have people over here hurting and don't know where to go for it. So there's a disconnect in how do we make that connection and community engagement piece work to where people know where to go to get resources. So skipping down, the pandemic has really hurt the Latino community a lot. We saw that they experienced a 34% decrease in full-time employment versus Black residents was at 11% decrease, and white respondents were 14% decline in full-time employment since March. And in terms of the workforce, workers of color, Black and brown workers are going into are the essential workforce. They're going into more unsafe job environments, and they don't feel safe. I'm on the fourth to last bullet point, where more workers of color, including 45% of Black Nashvillians and 54% of Latino Nashvillians, are actually physically reporting into work as opposed to working from home. One of the more striking data set points was the differences in business ownership. You have business owners of color facing this pandemic differently than white business owners. A higher percentage of business owners of color reported, which was about 60%, reported that they received no form of income or cash assistance from the pandemic, as opposed to only 38% of white business owners received assistance. So what we found in our focus group is a lot of people just didn't know. They didn't know that the state had a Tennessee Business Relief Program. And so they went back right after that and started filling out their paperwork. So it's just more of an information gap that we need to address. Over 2/3 of respondents to the small business owner survey that we had operated at a loss, and that was a pretty daunting loss. The spectrum of loss in revenue loss was between 50% and 90% of their regular operating revenue. And then in terms of the challenges that small business owners said that they face, the greatest one was obviously making money, generating revenue at 79%, and then a decline in business followed by paying their bills, keeping their business open, and then keeping employees on payroll. So I won't read through all of those, but those are pretty much the top key findings of the report, and it goes into some pretty significant data points, and it breaks it out by age, by race, and other segments. What we see is that the problems are made worse in the 12 zip code hotspots. So whereas all of Nashville is experiencing loss and struggling, the folks in the 12 zip codes are actually hurting at a greater rate. So I'm going to turn over to Keila to talk about some of the numbers.
Is this on? Okay. So before we get into the numbers, I do want to add just a little bit more context from our qualitative focus groups and some of the individualized outreach that we did. In one particular bullet point, I think we talked about African Americans and Latino community members who've experienced significant job loss. Yes, it was 34% versus 54%, or 14% versus 54%. What we found out in some of our focus groups is that a huge majority of the people we surveyed had already experienced job loss in the African American community. And when COVID hit, our service and construction industries, which typically tend to house more of our Latina population, or employ more of our Latina population, were hit hard. So a lot of our Latino community members were experiencing immediate need because they had lost jobs immediately, whereas a lot of the African American community members that we surveyed had been experiencing sustained need. It was a need that was presented. And with those people that we surveyed, we also found out that a lot of the people who were experiencing new need, particularly in the African American community, had never gone for any type of service before or for any type of support or help. So beyond their churches or the typical organizations that are usually at the forefront of community engagement, they had no idea where to go and get resources or how to even find out about where to go and get resources. And a huge percent of those people also watch the news. But I do want to talk about the numbers because I think it's very important that we really highlight how this survey or how this assessment came together, but also how it unfolded. So I believe Charlene said that in less than 60 days, we were able to comprise a team that consisted of 95% of the people on our team actually lived in one of the hotspot zip codes. So all of our consultants are people that actually come from the zip codes and the areas that are directly impacted. 95% of them were either Black or Latina, including our canvassers. We initially had a goal of 3,124, which would have been a 5% response rate. We ended up getting a 276% response rate, which is still growing because people took the survey today. We engaged over 107 nonprofit partners. We had 49 partners that committed to validating these survey responses as they sent it out to their list and helped with outreach. We did 31 community pop-up events. We have 3 going today, so 34. We had over 1,000 attendees at those pop-up events. We did 22 weekly partner engagement calls, 2 of which were outreach calls with the United Way, where we tried to connect some of our partners and churches to some of those rent and mortgage relief resources that were given to United Way. We hired 39 canvassers. We completed over 700 canvassing hours. We reached, through just canvassing, 1,756 people. We did 17 interviews. We reached 602 people via our press conference. We reached 250,000 people from news stories. We had articles published in all of those different outlets, as you can see. We did advertising with social media impressions, and digital ad placements, which we reached over 408,000 people. We reached about 236,000 people on Facebook. We utilized a lot of our Latinx radio stations, and we're able to reach a lot of people there. 101 to Beat actually did an email campaign for us, as well as urbanite.com. We had over 107,000 people reached with over 1,800 click-throughs and over 214 click-throughs through Urbanite. We used some very, what we like to call unconventional tactics to reach people. We wanted to make sure that we weren't just reaching people who were directly focused on COVID relief, but that we were kind of digging a little bit deeper and reaching people who were directly impacted by COVID. So I'll stop there and leave room for questions and answers. Anyone has any questions?
Excellent, thank you. Edward, you want to start?
Absolutely. I will be candid. I'm not absolutely clear with the extent or the duration of the survey, but I think something that you ladies mentioned, which I will say is impressive, what you've been able to do in such a short period of time. But you mentioned how some of the people you were engaging were just unaware of services. And I know that you continue to do pop-ups. Is there any way of potentially leveling or doing comparative analysis of, now that we as a committee and the city started taking action, that there may be hopefully a lessening in the numbers of people that have said that they're not experiencing any access to those funds? Is that something you plan to do?
No, we did not plan on doing the actual engagement of getting people delivering those resources. It's just one of those natural things that popped up as we were talking to folks. So hope that answered your question.
I guess as you're continuing the process, as I heard, you're doing 3 pop-ups today, and I believe there may be a few more that are coming. I think one question is, if you're able to interact with some of the same type of participants, right? Some of the same people that have been engaged during the previous 60 days, is there a potential for feedback from them saying, well, now that I know about X, Y, and Z, I've been able to receive that? Like, is that feedback we as a committee may be able to get access to if you have a way of conducting that type of assessment?
I would think we would need to do a different questionnaire because we don't want to, compromise the validity of the results because this data collection started July 23rd. So it could skew the data, so to speak. But I think that could be an added layer, like a phase 3 to this project that we could do. Absolutely. But we've run out of resources.
Any other questions?
I appreciate this report. It's great information and data. And when you speak about the disparities in the Latino community, we were just looking at our first report from United Way for the rent and utilities distributions, and it's rather low in our Latino population. So this data just helps reaffirm that we need to do more in those areas. So thank you for your work on this.
Specifically for the Latino community, when they are having trouble finding resources, was it due to language barriers, stuff not just being translated? Is there more information on that?
So we did do a lot of focus groups to kind of drill down into the qualitative reasoning as to why. I think language barriers is a piece of it, but I also think there is this lack of trust with wanting to give the required information. So we were extremely grateful that the Latino population and our Black community as well, for us, it was a lot easier because we've developed that rapport and those relationships in the Black community to get that information directly. And what we had to do was a lot of outreach in a short period of time to begin to collect that data from the Latino population. But I do think that a good piece of it is not wanting to give out information, not wanting to tell, where you live, your name, for obvious reasons. And that kind of limits what people have access to.
Excellent. Well, if there
Sorry, one more point too. This is just more anecdotal data than anything, but a lot of people that we talk to, they're not used to struggling. So like these are folks who are working class folks, they're used to working and didn't expect to get laid off. And so they're not used to going to places and going to a United Way or a Salvation Army. That it's just not their initial thought process. So that also contributes to that some pride a little bit of I don't need help and I'm going to struggle through.
Thank you for your report, and also thank you for what you just said. That is exactly the point that I made a few meetings ago, is that part of the delay that we've had in people seeking help is that these are persons who never had to apply for unemployment or for TANF or any nonprofit assistance. And because of that, because we've stigmatized those type of services for so long, it delays the effort, and it also delays the response. And so I'm glad that we have you reaching out because it informs us that people who aren't used to seeking services are having difficulty because they just don't know where to go. And now that we've gotten this information, I think we can move forward and help some more people out. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you said it best, Charlene, with the information gap. And that is certainly something that we've had some phone calls with Tequila and Charlene that we think is one of the biggest things we need to be working on. So as we talked about putting more information in the hands of the council to get to constituents, to the websites, to all of the different places, but then I think it gets really necessary for that grassroots. So the more information we can get to more diverse organizations throughout our community to really try to reach, fill in that information gap. So I think there's just a lot of information that we will continue to really harvest out of this report as we continue to make sure that the funds that are out there are accessed and that we can monitor them to see what the additional need is. So again, thank you for a quick turnaround too.
I do like the idea. I wanted to reinforce the idea of like a phase 3 to go back to these same people even and say, I'd like to know the fruits of our labor, right? Or did this work? What have we done to help, and is it helping? I think that would be great. Not to put more work on you, but.
All right, and just the last item is I want to make sure that this committee is getting what they need. And so we talked about our next meeting being with our departments and that we can get an idea of really honing down, focusing, and prioritizing what are some of their unmet needs as a department. And I think, I have to kind of check, I think we have about 16 departments. So if we gave them each 5 minutes, that puts us at 80 minutes of our 90. It doesn't leave you all a lot of time for questions. So do we want to break that down? Okay, so we will split, just like we kind of had to break down small business into 3 meetings, we'll break that down. I will send an email, though, to all of the departments to be prepared, and then I'll just kind of literally divide it.
I think someone from the arts was supposed to speak to us. I thought that was happening today.
I reached out to Caroline Vincent. She had thought through one of the committee meetings that meeting was this week, so I let her know it was next week.
Okay.
But we'll put them in the first batch because she's been waiting.
I know you had mentioned that you were going to go back to the departments and ask them to really pare down, but I think quantifying that, saying this is the total request and this is how much we have left. So if there's any realistic idea that you'll get anything, like really, really pare that down.
Yep, absolutely. So that kind of gives us our next 2 weeks. Sean, did you have something? Okay. That kind of gives us our next 2 weeks of agenda then to just try to break up and just give kind of the even time by department. We'll probably put them on some kind of timer and leave time for questions for you all. All right. Thank you so much. And Equity Alliance, we will make sure we'll collect these back for you. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.